And I believe we are live. My name is Dylan, and this is Dylan Talks Tone, and this is our live show. If you're new to this channel, do me a favor and hit the subscribe button and the little bell next to it, because we have like 450 something videos all about guitar tone, guitar tech. And on Fridays, those videos come out on Tuesdays, and on Fridays, we get together and have a little live chat about things that are interesting, um, and we're just going to chat about it. So do me a favor, and if you would, check out the chat box up there, and you can go ahead and add in your thoughts and whatever. And then when we get around to some of this stuff and have some conversations, I'm going to come back to it all. If you have technical questions about guitar stuff, or if you just want to share your opinion about the subjects that we talk about, make sure you jump in the chat box today, and we will handle it, and we will allow you to not allow you, we will hang out together. That's the whole point of this. I usually drink coffee, but I was thinking about it the other day, and I'm like, my shows are at noon on Friday, and I am my own boss, so we're drinking tequila today. Just because I was in the mood. I was just in the mood to drink tequila. And as I pour myself a glass, I am not sponsored by that tequila brand. If you have, I'm almost out actually of this Herradura Reposado. So if you have any suggestions for tequila, let me know, because I got to buy another bottle this weekend because I like this stuff. I drink it straight, and I also drink it with margaritas. So, yeah, very cool. All right, well, let's get into. That stuff is so good. Let's get right into it, because we got a lot to talk about today. First of all, if you'll notice, there's a whole lot less going on. I got new microphones. I got a Focusrite 6i6 back here. We got videos coming out about all of this stuff. We won't get too much into the details. I'll show you these microphones that I got. They're not light. So this is the Neat Microphones King B. I got two of them, so I'm talking to you on one, and then this is a second one. And man, I love them. Condenser mic. From what I understand, it's the two guys that started Blue, or were involved heavily in Blue, or designers for Blue, or whatever, left and started their own company. I think they were actually owned by Gibson for a time. I'm not actually sure who owns them now, but that's the scoop. And yeah, so that's it. So yeah, man. Anyway, I really like them. So let's get chatting about some stuff. So we're going to talk about a few things, but I wanted to share a couple things that were kind of on my mind this week, and I'll tell you one of them. This one really, it's kind of a bummer, right? Dave Mustaine found out he has throat cancer. It sounds like the articles that I've been reading late this week in preparation for the show today, is that he's gonna probably be okay. They're saying it's very optimistic. You never obviously know, right? I mean, I don't know. That's anytime you hear about anybody getting ill, especially with cancer, it's a huge deal. Let's see. Let's talk about. We're gonna go through these first couple pretty quick. All right. So it happened again, and I'll show you the page. There's a bunch of places you can watch it. There's a video here of. I don't want to click on it because then I don't know about copyright stuff with blah 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 rebroadcasting on YouTube. So I don't want to get into all of that. But basically, Tom Morello takes somebody's phone and flips it out of his hand, like throws it. Again, let's just break this down. This keeps happening. And I do not agree, and I cannot stress to you enough how much this disappoints me that guys are doing this. If you watch the video, he had invited a bunch of people up on stage. It is the moment of their life, possibly, and they're trying to get selfies. Who wouldn't? This is 2019. This is what you do. You want to share with the world that you are having your moment. And he chucked the phone. Now, he did warn people about getting in the way with the phone. But here's the thing. It may have been immature on the part of the fan, but if the fan is just a kid, he's probably immature anyway. Addressing immaturity with immaturity is no way to solve a problem, especially when you are in that situation, looked at being the role model for all these kids. I mean, and whoever else is there, even if they're adults, people are looking up to you. Why are you behaving in this manner? It is 2019. Get over yourselves, people. If you think that people aren't going to take selfies and they're not going to have their phones out at shows, wake up. It's the 21st century. This is life. If you want to be away from social media, if you want to be away from cameras, if you want to be away from all that, then you just got to stay home and do your own thing. It is just what it is. Man, that one disappointed me because I really, really like Tom Morello. He does get a little outspoken about some stuff though, right? So let's see. Next thing. David Gilmour sold all of his guitars. Well, a huge part of his collection. $21.5 million worth, with his number one black Strat being the one that took the cake at, I believe, $3.975 million for an overall record. I actually went back and looked and did some inflation calculations and found out that I think Jimi Hendrix's guitar went for $3 million in 1990, $2 million in 1998, and with inflation, that would be like 3.2 now. So even with inflation, this is the most valuable guitar. If you don't count, there was one other guitar that was like a charity thing, specifically for like a whole bunch of people signed it and they, did it for charity. Now the same thing with this deal. He says that he gave all of this money towards his own charity and all the charitable stuff that he does. So that's very cool. Would it have brought that much money otherwise? I don't know. I'm one of these people, and everybody, there's been people on the internet kind of bashing the whole thing. There's been people talking about how, why would he sell his number one? Guitar players that really are good and make money at what they're doing, they view everything as a tool. And yeah, it is a historical piece in the respect that it was played on some awesome songs, but it's just a piece of wood. It's just a guitar. So, calm down, everybody. Okay. This is what you're all here for. I whipped through this stuff real quick. Actually, hang on. Let me grab my notepad because I actually took notes, because this is a serious situation by some accounts. So let me grab another sip of tequila. Man, I really like that stuff. Throw some tequila suggestions in the comments. So we're going to talk today about Gibson again for a few reasons. Now, last Friday, we discussed that video that was up, on the internet, and Mark Agnesi basically threatened everybody and said, they were going to sue everybody and blah, 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 blah. Well, obviously it's true, because they have announced I believe a $14 million lawsuit against against Dean Guitars. It's Armadillo, but it's the owner of Dean Guitars and Luna Guitars. The reason it's $14 million is because they feel that they have them on 7 different counts of various things, ranging from trademark infringement, counterfeiting, brand dilution, unfair competition. So one of the things that we should talk about is the fact that, of course, the media puts this out there really directly following the this video that was up there and then that Gibson took down because, you know, it was probably a pretty bad look. I have it on pretty good information that it was kind of somebody flexing muscles, and then somebody found out about it and said, maybe you shouldn't have did that. Obviously, it was a bad look, and they took the video down. So I've got that on pretty good information. So anyway, Armadillo Enterprises, thank you very much, Sassy Cat, for throwing that in there. That's what it's called. I knew it was Armadillo something. I don't really care. 7 different counts, $2 million per count for $14 million. So what we're going to do is I did some research on what each of these counts are. I'm going to show you what they're doing. And to tell you the truth, Gibson, they have some legs to stand on in a couple of spots here, but they also don't. Remember in our last show last week, we discussed the fact that you not only have to file for the trademarks, but you have to actively fight for them. Okay, so we're going to look at a couple of facts here surrounding this whole thing that make this whole thing kind of muddy, and it kind of, number one, gives Gibson a good reason for the whole lawsuit situation, number one, and number two, so they might actually win some of these, and number two, they might lose some too because of some various reasons. So what we're going to do, and the other thing, what I forgot to mention is, even though it just came up last week, I don't know why I'm pointing with a pen, even though it came up last week, they actually sent cease and desist letters to Dean in 2017. So this has been going on for a while. They've actually been trying to get this going for a while. And I think that's why I feel like this video last week was kind of a bad look. I just feel like everybody kind of jumped on this whole thing and it became a whole media circus that maybe it didn't deserve because of that stupid video last week. So that you know what we're talking about. If you haven't seen it, you can find it on Reddit, a couple of places. There's a few places around the internet where it still exists, but they took it down off of YouTube shortly after we made our video last week. I'm not saying I was responsible for that. I'm just saying timeline-wise, that's what happened. So we're going to dive right into this. So let's first of all talk. I'm going to show you the individual things that Gibson is, and then you put in the comments. You let me know what you think. And I'm not a lawyer, but I do know some stuff about this, and I'll tell you what I think too. So this is all about education purposes. So first of all, let's talk about the peg head, because the peg head is, of course, the center of a lot of things. And I guess I should have here. Hang on. Let me real quick here. I'm going to take my face off of here because okay. So I want to take my face off there because it blocks the whole point of the situation. So here we have the peg head designs of Gibson and of Dean, and this is what they are asserting, that Gibson and Dean, or that Dean has copied Gibson. Now, here's the thing about this. It has a lot to do with percentages and perception, and they kind of have a point here, and here's why. Yes, they look different, but how much of this actually is different? If you look at the bottom taper, you look at the sides, and then you look at the top points, they're very, very similar. And then you look, the only difference is that inverted top bump. So like the mustache versus like the chin look there. You could see where they could have some grounds for this. Now, is it going to stick? I don't know. I can't say. I'm not a lawyer, obviously. I don't know. But if you look at that design very, very from the perspective of the percentage of difference, I mean, Dean is, it's really, they're pushing it. You know, let's just make one little change so it's different. Remember that one of the points of contention when it comes to this stuff is how different is it to the uneducated eye? Now, to all of us that know guitar brands, it's pretty easy. But for those that are not educated about the peg head shape and peg head shapes in general, could they confuse it? I kind of don't think so, but I can understand why by percentage of difference, they definitely may have a leg to stand on here. You said Trogley made a video about this. He did. And I got some of my information from him, and I actually, I'll tell you, I definitely did get some of my information from him. So I want to show you a couple other things. Here's, or at least he gave me the idea of where to look for all this stuff. Let me just say that. I actually went and did a bunch of like trademark date investigation and stuff that he didn't do. So we'll get into that here in a minute. I'm not saying I'm better or anything. I was just saying that I guess I need to take my face off of these picture in pictures because it's blocking the point of the deal. So here's the other thing, the V. So the V, let's see, the V is the same. The body is almost identical. And in fact, Dean actually puts this is the other thing they're contesting, is is that Gibson makes the V, and that the V, it looks exactly like the Dean V, that they copied it. Okay, so bottom line is they're almost exactly the same. And they could be very easily mistaken for each other, especially since the fact they go so far as to use that like V-shaped tailpiece and stuff. But here's where Dean could probably lose this, or Gibson could probably lose this, because Dean has been making the V since 1977. So for 40 years, they've been making that shape and they've been copying it, and Gibson hasn't really said anything. Remember last week when we discussed the fact that you have to be able to uphold all of these things, and you have to be able to like defend them and keep on them. Otherwise you lose the right to defend them. Here's a case where they may have waited too long, and they may have, everybody may say that, or the judge and the lawyers may say, if you did this in 1979 or 1978, you might have a leg to stand on here, but waiting 40 years to do it, that's what happened with Fender, and they will use Fender as a precedent because Fender did the very same thing. Moving on, it's the same exact deal with the Explorer situation. The Explorer body is the same. It's almost exactly the same shape. However, the same thing applies. Well, the main thing is this is string through instead of a stop bar tailpiece. But you notice they even use that V-shaped deal. The tailpiece, the V-shaped tailpiece. If you're going to do this, don't be so blatant about what you copy. Okay? In Gibson's defense, don't be so blatant about it. In Gibson's defense. In Dean's defense, again, the time frame comes into play here because they've been making this guitar with no issue since the late 70s. So, and there are many other guitars that have kind of sprung off of that same shape. Think about like the Chapman, right? The Chapman makes that guitar that looks kind of like an Explorer too. All these things have kind of come off of there because they have not, they have not defended it. You make a good point here about stealing somebody else's designs, and we'll get into that in a minute. And if you want to watch last week's video, that goes very specifically into how I feel about this, but we'll talk about it in a minute. I just want to run through kind of the logistics of what's going on here. Now, this one, I don't necessarily know that they're going to have a leg to stand on here. This is another thing that they're contesting, is that the SG shape is stolen by their, whatever they call this thing, the Grand Sport. But what I think is funny is Grand Sport is just GS instead of SG. I don't know if that's actually real or not. I don't care. I don't know. But they kind of changed the shape here. This is not exactly the same. It's It's not the same, but it kind of is copied. That one's going to be a toss-up. That's pretty interesting. And I could not find when the SG was trademarked. I couldn't find that. So yeah. And then they talk about the hummingbird. I think they're gonna get got on this deal. When you take a name, basically like the Telecaster broadcaster deal with Fender, when you steal somebody's name and they have it trademarked, you're going to have to change it. If I tried to call something Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola would come after me and they would change it. And this guitar doesn't look the same. It is not the same, but they're trying to steal the name or using a different name. That one's probably not going to go well. That one they're probably going to have to do something about, I would guess. And then the last one that we have information on, or that I have information on anyway, is the modern or whatever it's called. There's something about that too, and I couldn't figure out exactly. I mean, there's no shapes that Dean makes. There's a peg head shape that's kind of the same, but that's not even what the original modern had. I also almost feel like a Gibson copied Dean in that respect, so I'm not really sure. I don't know about that one, so I'm not going to talk about stuff I don't know about or haven't figured out good information about, so I don't know that one. But the last one is their sort of 335 shape. Now, this has been going on for quite a while. Let's see. This has been going on because Gibson, they trademarked the 335 shape in 1996. By that time, had so many people been making 335 shapes that they cannot actually defend this as well as they thought? I don't know, because as they come out with other 335 style guitars like the 339 and various guitars that are a little bit different, they're trademarking those as well and then trying to use that as a whole body of work to like basically say that the 335 shape is ours, kind of like retroactively going back. I don't know. I don't know. That one's another one I'm not really sure about. So that's it. Those are kind of the main things that they're going on about. And I honestly think that Gibson has a point with some of this stuff. They do. I tell you what, let's talk about some live chat. This is going kind of crazy over here. So let's talk about this a little bit. Now that we're got some comments going in here. Let's see. Hang on. I'm having a hard time scrolling in here. Give me 1 second. Yeah, hit the like button, y'all. Let's see. Gibson's going to get their hind end handed to them. Man, I don't know. There's a few of these that may stick one way or the other. Gibson removed the video. Yes, they did. Just kind of going down through here. The peg head shape stuff. 30% is the cutoff. You must change your design by 30%. That is not actually an actual standard in every case. Again, I'm not a lawyer, and this is why we say every situation is different, because if you've had success defending something in that case, it's possible in your situation it worked. It's not a hard and fast rule, though. There are, in fact, in last week's video, we discussed like the kind of the 8 principles that they use to put this all together. And it's sort of a judgment call on their case, in this case. Gibson was owned by Norland in 1977. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who owned them when they brought it up. I understand that people are angry because Gibson is a large corporation, but if you take out the corporate part, I think we would all be mad if somebody stole our work, no matter how old it is. Dylan, wouldn't you be mad if somebody stole your work and your designs? I wouldn't be mad. What I would do is in my situation, and I have done this, I would take whatever legal ways there were to defend my designs and my work. And I would make sure, but if I did not, and this is very important to this argument, and you can go back to last week's video and watch this, because we get really into detail on it. The law surrounding this has a bunch of criteria that they go by. And one of them is that you have to keep on this. You have to constantly make sure, and you basically have to defend your own trademark legally along the way. So if you go 40 years without caring, and then all of a sudden care one day, you're going to have a very difficult time defending that because you didn't care for the previous 40 years. Now, if Gibson would have started defending the V, for instance, in 1978, when Dean made the thing, they could say, hey, we've been making this since the 50s. This is not yours. They probably would have had no problem at all. But they waited 40 years, allegedly, apparently. Of course, there's probably, I don't know if there's other documentation that we don't know about, all this kind of stuff, right? Because we're not lawyers. But by all casual appearances or, easily Googleable stuff that normal people like you and I can find, they went 40 years without arguing this stuff. And then all of a sudden, out of the middle of nowhere, boom, here we go. Right? So that's a very difficult thing to go back in time and do. If their quality was better and they would sell more guitars, they wouldn't have to worry about lawsuits. This is, I believe, and I hate to disagree with you, Singer Pickups. That is not even part of the conversation. What you have a legal right to defend as that has nothing to do with the rest of your business. Every brand has the legal right to defend their trademarks. Every brand. It doesn't matter how good they are. It doesn't matter if they suck. It doesn't matter if they suck at making the one thing that they defend. It doesn't matter. If they paid for the trademark process, they have the right to defend it. So quality has nothing to do with it. Now, company focus, that possibly. But you have to remember something here. Gibson at this time is owned by 3 banks, one of which has 66% share. So the other 2 banks are ish. The other 2 banks don't really have much to say. The majority shareholder bank, it is a bank that owns them, put in place 6 board of directors individuals with the dude that looks like Ron Jeremy as the CEO. Okay. So I say it looks like Ron Jeremy and Nicolas Cage had a baby, and that's what he looks like. Anyway, I made a video about this like 6 months ago. So there's 6 people that are basically running it, and they're really running it like fiduciaries, like it's a business situation. And there is going to be a bunch of this. There is going to be they have quality people, and they're doing quality stuff like to get their quality up. And I think that people need to stop ragging on the quality situation. I used this example last week when Harley Davidson, I don't care about Harleys, I can't stand them, but just to prove the point, when Harley Davidson was owned by AMF, which is a bowling company in the 70s, their bikes sucked. And as soon as they bought their company back from, basically the employees bought them back, and they, did what they could to bring the company back in like 3 years, their quality was back up again. Their warranty claims were down. They had way less complaints, but it took 3 years for this to happen. So this could take years. This could take years to bring this back. And part of the thing could be that bank may say, you're not defending yourselves well enough. Now, Gibson has been known to do this for a while, but at the same time, did they have the right people in place to do it? I don't know any of the answers to those questions. So why now? I mean, if you got bought out by a big company that is a bank, that is going to be the number one thing on their mind, is how to recoup that money and defending your brand and your trademarks and everything is going to be part of that game. It's going to be part of that game. And again, if you look at these examples, they've got a leg to stand on with some of this stuff. Let's not get this twisted. People copy other people's designs, and they may have a leg to stand on in some of these situations, or at least a percentage. Maybe they don't get $2 million for the peg head. Maybe they get 1.5, but they set a precedent. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it's all about, the precedent with this stuff. So moving on in the future, it probably has less to do about the money than it does to do about the precedent, so that they know what to do with their brand going on into the future. I mean, that's what it's really coming down to. I wonder what Fred Gretsch thinks about this. Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, stop making guitars that look like a Les Paul. Stop. Don't. And here's what I'm going to tell you. This is from my situation. Don't buy blatant ripoffs. Don't buy Chinese stuff. Chinese copies. Don't buy from private builders. I'm going to say this, and it's going to sound weird coming from me, but you know that I care about trademark law, and for many reasons, and I play within the rules. Okay? Everybody knows this about me. Do not go buy, and I have friends that do this, so this bothers me. Don't go buy a Les Paul that was made to look like a copy of a Les Paul. Don't do it. Don't go buy a Telecaster neck and go on eBay and buy a silkscreen, build your own guitar, and put a Fender water slide decal on it. Don't do it. You're making a counterfeit. It's not right. Don't do it. Don't put somebody else's name on your guitar that's not your creation. Don't make a Telecaster peg head shaped guitar that is not a licensed neck where Fender gets some of the money. Work within the system, then create based on that. If you do that, you'll never get in trouble. Nobody's ever going to sue me because, or I won't say nobody's ever going to sue me, but I'm not going to have that. I don't want that to sound like a challenge either. They're not going to come after any of these guitars that I've got standing in here, because I can go and I can say, this is the legal process that we use to build these guitars, and we are within the law by doing so, and I don't have to worry about it. Don't push the limits of trademark infringement, and then you'll never have a problem. And then people will, and here's the other thing I'm going to tell you. As guitar players and as people that watch this show and follow what we do, don't turn your nose down on people that are coming up with new and cool ideas that are not original body shapes and say, oh, that doesn't look like a Telecaster, blah, blah, blah. I only play Telecaster. You're part of the problem when you do that, because people are trying to be original. We're trying to make new stuff. We're trying to do new things, but guitar players are idiots about how much they want things to look exactly like a guitar that was made in the 50s, and I think it's stupid. So I am also defending all of the people who want to cut a crazy body shape out and make it practical and make it cool and try to innovate and make a peg head shape that doesn't look like a Telecaster or a Strat or a Gibson and have it be original without somebody saying that looks stupid, it should look more like a Fender. I'm defending all those people too. I mean, that is the thing. So stop doing it, you know. Let's see. I just know that the Grand Sport line is different enough to feel nothing like an SG. You know, it is. That's a tricky one. I am with you. That's a tricky one. Go get them, Gibson. You know, where they are within the law. They are within the law for doing this. So don't be such haters on. I mean, I think it's unwise. What I think is unwise about this whole thing is Mark Ignacy making that video and causing all that brand distortion, in my opinion. His job as whatever he is to make it fluffy and to make people, somebody commented this on one of my videos last week, his job is to make it fluffy and make people love Gibson again. He went way against that. and kind of didn't do his job. So, they better sue all the companies in China for making less Okay, so I would imagine that they are going after companies in other countries where their trademark laws can be defended. China is very difficult, and that is one of the, without getting into politics, that is one of the things that is kind of like the age-old problem with China, is there's no way to defend it there. Many things, there are some things I think, but many things cannot be defended in China. I had an issue in China in 2000, had to be 2007. Cost me like 20 grand. It was a big deal, and it was based on trying to make a thing. I don't want to get into the details of it, but basically, I know for sure, 100% for sure, because it happened to me. It is difficult. Well, I'll tell you what I did. We designed a CDI box for a Yamaha Rhino that would make it go faster. Then when we sent it to China to have it made, because that's where you have such things made. You can't have them made in the United States, so calm down. It had to be made in China because of what was in there. The prototype came back, and it was amazing, and it worked, and the Rhino went faster, and it was awesome. And then when we got the pallet of stuff back, like the pallet of 100 of these things or however many we had made, I don't remember, none of them worked right. Check engine lights came on, all this kind of stuff. Weeks later, another company made in China took our design and put their own name on it. Stole our idea. It cost me $20,000 just in parts. I couldn't defend it at that time. We couldn't do it. So China cannot. China's a tough one. It is what it is. Let's see. The case against Dean was started in 2017 and and people need to stop blaming the new management. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is at this point. There's more Strat copies than anything else, and Fender ain't going after other companies. That's because they tried to. They tried to go back, and this is what I'm talking about. They waited too long to trademark the Fender Telecaster and Stratocaster body shapes. And when they went to court, they basically, what happened was they said, you waited too long to do it, and now you kind of lost exclusivity brand recognition because there's just so many of them out there everywhere. They waited too long. Because, going back to last week's show, you have to stay on top of this stuff. That is one of the things that is a requirement of trademark law. You have to stay on top of it. It's crazy. Let's see. Are you allowed to put a Fender logo on a licensed Fender neck? No, you are not. Yeah, George Lackey, you're right. I just call it a bowling pin company because I think it's funny. I just feel like they were kind of out of their element with the motorcycle stuff. I have many years experience in power sports. And that one's always been a funny one to me. You're right though. They did have other sporting goods, bicycles, many things. But they were a sporting goods company. I just think it's funny because AMF is known for bowling stuff. Yeah, and this is just an interesting one. Funny thing about AMF. They produced Harley Davidson designs when they bought back. They started doing the designs AMF came up with. The Evo engine is an AMF design. Yeah, fair point. But here's the thing. When you purchase the designs, now you own them, right? So this is what I'm talking about. If you legally go through everything that you're supposed to go through along the way, then you're fine. If somebody were to come to me and say, I want to buy this design from you, I've had it happen. I've actually sold designs before. I currently do not own any share in some motorbike stuff that I designed 15 years ago because I sold it to them, and that company now makes those things. So, and I sold out of that stuff on a date, and that's what happens. Same thing with AMF. They designed something, and then when Harley bought themselves back, basically, they bought those designs. And so after that date, they can make them and they can own them. They didn't steal them. They didn't steal somebody's designs. They bought them. It's all about taking the legal road that you can take to do any of this kind of stuff. Now, if somebody forges what you do, you can go after that at any time. Really. It's hard to defend it when there's a trade war dispute on. Trademark stuff it's a law, though. There's legal precedent for it all. And I think as fuzzy as it has been for so long, I think it's going to continue to tighten up. Gibson needs to fire whoever is writing those Agnesi statements. I know who's writing them. And I would tell you, this is my opinion, that I would say that the person that's writing them is going to end up managing a Guitar Center somewhere very soon. That's all I'm going to say about it. I have sources, and that's all I'm going to say about it. So, with that, whoa, that was a big sip. This stuff's pretty smooth, but even that's a big sip. With that, we are out of tequila. So, I think we're out of show. We're right at 40 minutes, which is what we were last week. Thanks so much, everybody. All the comments. This is really cool. I love, I love this. I want to come back here because we want to talk about this really fast. Hang on. I want to come back to one thing. If you put a Fender logo on a licensed neck, it is still a forgery. It is not a Fender. So just FYI. Fight me. That's how I know. Thanks for hanging out. This has been super fun. I guess we'll see everybody next week when we talk about more stuff. I've got videos coming out about the new setup. I've got a video coming about the computer and how we're doing all of this sound production stuff. We've got a really cool video coming out about Telecaster stuff. We're going to do, and I'll just give you a sneak peek since you've hung out with me for the whole time. I'll just give you a sneak peek since you're here. We are going to do a video where we take 6 barrels saddles for, 6 saddle bridges, 3 saddle bridges, aluminum, steel, titanium, brass, short bridge, like shorty bridge versus like a GE Smith versus a long bridge. And we're going to do sound comparisons with all that stuff. I've never actually seen a video with all of that done. And I don't necessarily know that it's going to prove anything. But the idea is to just give you a comparison and kind of a reference in your mind. We're going to use the same pickup. We're going to use the same guitar, but we're just going to switch bridges a bunch of times and saddles a bunch of times. I think it's going to be really cool. So that video's coming. That's taken a lot of work though, because I got to take the guitar apart like a ton of times and go through like 6 sets of strings. So that one's taken a ton of time, but it's going to be super, super fun. Thanks. Definitely hit the like button. I really, really appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out today. And until next time, have fun playing guitar and be nice to each other on the internet. I definitely appreciate that most of you do that in our comments. It's very, very cool. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to y'all soon.